Hey everyone! So it has been quite the journey here on Yumi Tok Yumi Wok podcast. We had so many amazing influencers as well as guests from different areas, different fields, sharing their experiences and perspective. I'm pretty sure we've learned so much from each other. And yeah, it's just been super incredible. And I guess everyone enjoyed it as well. And you could clearly see that in the podcast. They had so much to share. And we hope that the discussions meant a lot to you as well. And we hope you share it with your community and also go out there and empower other youths. But, I'll stop right here and I'll let you hear from the influencers themselves on their experiences and their feedbacks.
Hi everyone, it's Shai again, and I was featured on the first episode of the Yumi Tok Yumi Wok podcast. My initial thoughts of why I wanted to put my hand up to join the podcast was essentially to share my perspective, especially given the topic that I spoke about, youth in action. I felt like based on my 5 or so years in what I do now as a media professional and navigating the journey from leaving formal tertiary education to pursue a business, I felt like I had somewhat of a better understanding of how young people can also navigate that journey themselves and share a little bit of my own wisdom with the other young people that watch the podcast. So my general thoughts on the EU Global Gateway Initiative about connecting young people and building trusted, sustainable relationships, I honestly think it's such an important stepping stone for young people, especially connecting with each other and navigating these different topics that you'll see throughout the podcast. I think the conversation has not reached the pinnacle of where it should be. And I feel like if we continue to encourage discourse amongst the young people, especially within that age range of 18 to 35 that makes up a majority of our population, if we can get conversation going and identify gaps through that conversation and identify solutions to those gaps and challenges that we face, it'll serve us and serve the nation and better us all. So everyone, I hope that you enjoyed the first episode that featured myself and Adele with Zima, and as well the other episodes that are coming out on the Yumi Tok Yumi Wok podcast. My words of encouragement as one young person to other young people who are watching is to really discover what you like, discover what interests you, as I mentioned in the podcast and in a couple of promos that I did earlier, that you should really explore your talents, your passions, your interests, and find like-minded people who also share the same interests. And together, you can do something that will essentially be a stepping stone for your future. You could discover that you particularly like sport, or you like academic research, or you're interested in sciences, etc., etc. And you build upon that, discover a good group of people, and let that shape your journey going forward. Don't be restricted to feeling pressure that you have to do a certain job or be in a certain field just because of your family expectations. I know that's a big part in our country and our society, but really tap into what drives and makes you happy.
Hello everyone, my name is Nelson Kokoa. I'm 28 years of age and I am the director and founder of Art Activism PNG and the Resistance Dance Company. When I first heard about this podcast and when I was invited to be on this podcast, I had known about the European Union and what they've been doing for Papua New Guinea for a while. So I took this opportunity and I brought it to my manager and I said, let's run with it. And here I am being featured on episode 2 of the Yumi Tok Yumi Wok podcast on sustainable infrastructure. I am a talker. I love having conversations. So when I heard that there was a podcast segment of this project, I absolutely put my hand up for that. This was a great podcast for me, especially because sustainable infrastructure isn't something that I would talk about on a daily basis. And so having to read more about sustainable infrastructure and having to read about what the European Union has done for Papua New Guinea with the different sustainable infrastructure projects around Papua New Guinea was really an eye-opener. And it's definitely something that I would now want to talk about more. And it has kind of pushed me in that direction of trying to focus more on what I can do for my community in that space and in that area. And I thank every single person who's watched the episode 2 of the Yumi Tok Yumi Wok podcast on YouTube or heard it on Spotify. And I hope that you continue to have this conversation. The podcast was only 20 minutes, but I hope you take what was learned from this or what was heard from this podcast and continue having these conversations, because I honestly believe that real change starts with a conversation. I also just want to say a big thank you to everyone who commented on the videos or on the posts on Facebook and have given their feedback in the comment section, or if you messaged me on my WhatsApp or emailed me and sent me some feedback. There was one feedback about having more dialogue on this conversation of on this topic of sustainable infrastructure, and I absolutely agree. We hope that the European Union would continue this podcast with all of these wonderful topics to talk about next year. But in the meantime, my advice would be to continue having these conversations in your groups, wherever you are. We're coming towards the end of 2025, where we all go home for our holidays. I would encourage every single one of you to use this time as a time of reflection. Use this time to think about what you've done in 2025, but what you can do better in 2026 for yourself and for this country.
Hello, Olgata. This is Tyler here. I was the inaugural Miss Bird of Paradise Papua New Guinea 2023 to 2024, and I was on episode 3 of the Yumi Tok Yumi Wok podcast speaking on agribusiness. So my general feelings towards the podcast, I only have good things to say. The podcast is a very, very good initiative, and it provided us, the empowered youth of Papua New Guinea, to just use our voices to speak on key thematic areas in our country, agribusiness being one of them. And I think that's important because the youth voice is a very powerful tool. And so coming into this podcast, I wanted to have an open mind and learn from other empowered people of Papua New Guinea, empowered youths of Papua New Guinea, on the type of work that they've done in the field. And I've met so many great people through this podcast, and I've got to learn about how they're contributing back to their communities. And it's really made me feel like, whoa, I can do so much more. And so I only have good things to say. I hope they continue to keep up this podcast, launch other series, and talk about more important stuff. And we can keep that dialogue going, because big change starts actually from small conversation. So my thoughts about the European Union in Papua New Guinea. Before coming on this podcast, I knew that they were here on invitation from the PNG government. But after this podcast, I've realized that they're more than just a donor. They're very much into sustainable development. And I can remember a lot of questions that came in through my platforms while I was advocating for this podcast was, if the European Union is only looking out to the employed professionals or the young professionals amongst the youth. And I'd just like to tell you that they're not looking at those of us who are employed or those of us who have qualifications. They're looking at you and I at the grassroots level, our local villagers, all the way up to the young professionals who are employed as well. The European Union has several projects that they roll out that are very, very beneficial to our societies. I can remember I spoke mainly about the EU Straight program, and this is just a key reminder again to the people who want to get into agribusiness. You can tap into the EU Straight program. You can help that to launch your agribusiness and take it from a smaller scale and make it self-sustaining, so that you can bring some money back into your own pockets and then reinvest into your community and your country as well. So my little piece of advice to the youth actually will come from one of my favorite pieces of literature. It's written by William Ennis Henley in his poem Invictus, and it goes, "It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate, I am the captain of my soul." You are the master of your fate, you are the captain of your soul. I just want to reaffirm what I said earlier in my episode of the podcast. Continue to bet on yourself. You know your strengths and your weaknesses, and you know the amount of work that you can put into redefining your weaknesses to turn them into your strengths. Thank you so much, Papua New Guinea, for having me, and I hope that we can continue this conversation so that we can both work together to bring change to our country. Thank you, Tomas. God bless.
Hi everyone, it's Cherise here. I'm an economics undergraduate at the University of Papua New Guinea. I was featured on episode 4, where we spoke more about climate change, renewable energy, and trade opportunities. One reason why I was excited to be a part of this podcast is because the target audience is youths. and that's majority of the population in our country. We all know that there's a lot of noise and a lot of distractions that are happening around us. But I was hoping that this platform and this podcast could be some sort of positive intervention in your life to open your minds up to possibilities and areas where you can bring change into your communities. I generally think that this entire project by the EU or the European Union is a very great initiative. I like the idea of having a podcast where we're able to have a wider reach into the country. We know that a lot of our target audiences are on these platforms such as YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, and everyone is always online on their phones. And instead of consuming other forms of media that are not exactly contributing to their academic or personal growth, we hope that this podcast can actually help them learn something and open their minds up to more opportunities and find more solutions to the problems around us. My word of encouragement to the youth is to know that being a youth is a journey and you are actively growing as we speak. You will outgrow different things from your past life, and just because you're known for being someone who is tied up to a different type of background, that doesn't mean that you cannot be someone else or who you aspire to be. Being a young person is a journey in itself, and you can be anything you want to be, and you can outgrow limits that other people have imposed on yourself. I'd also like to add on that each and every one of you is unique, and your uniqueness is your strength. So although you may have role models and people that you want to be like, just know that you will never exactly be like them, but you can adopt qualities in them that you like. But your strength is in your uniqueness, and that is something that cannot be taken away. And finally, for those who are fearful of trying out new things, just know that being fearful is natural. It's your body's natural response to things that you haven't done before. Before you learned how to ride a bike, you were afraid. Before you learned public speaking, you were afraid. But it was just familiarizing yourself in that environment that you gained the confidence to do the things that you can today. So once again, being fearful is natural, but the only thing that you can do is go out and do the thing that you want to do.
Thank you once again for tuning into the Yumi Tok Yumi Wok podcast. Unfortunately, we have come to the end of our podcast, but thank you for watching episodes 1 to episodes 5. We hope that you've enjoyed all the episodes. Firstly, we'd love to thank the European Union delegation to Papua New Guinea for this initiative, creating a platform where our young people can come and share their experiences and just encourage the youths out there to give back to their communities. We also would love to thank our influencers and our guests for being a huge part of the Yumi Tok Yumi Wok podcast. We couldn't have done it without you, so thank you. And last but not the least, our viewers. Thank you for all the likes, the lovely comments, and thank you for subscribing and following in on our YouTube and our Spotify. Once again, this has come to the end of our journey here on Yumi Tok Yumi Wok podcast. We hope that the discussion does not end here, but it carries through with you, through your communities and your friends, peers, family. Please share the word and talk more about change in our communities. And once again, remember, Papua New Guinea.
Change starts with you. And you. And you. And you. And you. And you.